place. So perhaps that is an indication that they are headed in the right direction. Hard to tell exactly where this police officer is coming from because that looks like an unmarked car. But Steve, I will say, just from being here for 5 minutes, it is crazy to see the sheer number of officers pulling into where we are. Perhaps they're setting up some sort of, they're staging posts right here, but this certainly looks like an area of focus, as you said, just walkable from that Hedingham neighborhood.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's important to point out, as you have been pointing out, what we have in terms of actual information from the Raleigh Police Department. And that is that they are advising people in certain parts of, they say McConnell Oliver Drive, Tar Heel Club Drive, Old Mill Burney Road, people should remain indoors and people should not be driving around those parts of Raleigh.
Yeah, Josh makes a good point. When you see a police presence that massive, you have to know and believe that they know exactly where they're going. But again, with nightfall, it makes it tough. They've probably set up perimeters. They also had a temporary flight restriction over the area. So they'll send up their drones, as you saw earlier. They'll send up their choppers, searching for this suspect or activity or movement and whatever way they can to be helpful in an investigation. It's really tough to do in the dark.
All right, Josh, we'll join you again in the minutes ahead so you can share some more observations. And obviously, I know you're going to be talking to people there and be sharing with us anything you learn there on the scene there at New Bern and Rogers, just south of the Hedingham neighborhood. We'll see you again in a few minutes, Josh. Thank you. And we want to show you those tweets as we have them from the Raleigh Police Department. And we can tell you that what these tweets are saying here. They say, as of 9 minutes ago, this is still an active investigation. Sections of the Hedingham neighborhood remain closed. Residents should follow the directions of law enforcement officials on the scene. Earlier in the hour, that's when they told people in those other neighborhoods we just described to remain indoors. So we have not received the all clear that everything is safe and there is a resolution with this gunman on the run from the RPD yet. Yeah,
not just yet. Jamise Price, of course, in that neighborhood where this initial scene unfolded earlier this afternoon, that scene has seemed to be clear. They allowed people back into the neighborhood. So Jamise is going to see if she can go into that neighborhood and talk to some people and try to figure out exactly who may have seen what earlier today when this all unfolded. So she'll try to get some information and that'll help us sort of start to piece together exactly what happened in the absence of information until we get an update from law enforcement tonight. But multiple agencies joining in this investigation. Josh mentioning he saw, Zebulon police officers there. So Wake County has said they're involved in this. Raleigh Police, of course, the lead agency on this. The FBI likely called in as well when an officer is shot. So this is a big investigation in Raleigh tonight. Unfortunately, what we know and we can report, 2 officers shot and several civilians as well.
And we're trying to nail down the condition of the people who were transported to the trauma unit at Wake Med as well. We know that 3 people were taken to the trauma center at Wake Med. So we're waiting for an update from many different agencies on all fronts. As we continue watching what's happening here and our live feeds coming in from our reporters on the scene in the Hedingham neighborhood and also where Josh is, New Bern and Rogers Lane, just south of Hedingham, where there is obviously another crime scene that's unfolding as well. Again, we're trying to piece this all together and sort it out. Another
instance there, Steve, of someone walking up to law enforcement officers to ask questions. And I think a lot of us have questions tonight, but we have to wait for the information to be released, in due time. And I know a lot of people are unnerved, unsettled when you see that many police cars at your front door at the beginning of your subdivision or, wherever you might be this evening. A lot of people saying they've seen cars fly by. We've seen and heard the sirens tonight. So it is unnerving for people, and we do acknowledge that, but we don't have any more information to provide at this point as far as who we're looking for, who police are trying to track down, only that we know that an off-duty police officer earlier this evening on their way to work encountered and had some kind of conflict with a person with a gun, and that off-duty officer was shot.
That's how it all began, and then from there, other people were shot there in the Hedingham neighborhood. The exact circumstances unclear about how that all transpired. That's what we are waiting to learn. And as you see right here, this is a live feed coming in from Wake Med. You can see Highway Patrol troopers are now arriving on the scene there at Wake Med. We've seen a number of people from the law enforcement community arriving there through the evening. It's that brotherhood of law enforcement officers coming together in a time of need, a time of tragedy involving people in their community. As we say, we know 2 officers have been shot, as well as a number of civilians as well. So this is obviously a very, very large caravan there of highway patrol troopers arriving at Wake Med on New Bern Avenue in Raleigh, as people continue arriving there at the hospital to give each other comfort.
I think this scene is actually where Josh is. I think this is actually New Bern and Rogers, where we're seeing this large police presence. But what we do know, Steve, is that seeing this urgency again, you know, the urgency that we saw earlier in the day, it seemed to have died down and then picked back up. So I think we're now understanding that there is something else going on with this investigation. I think officers turned their attention to a different part of East Raleigh, and now they're responding to another scene. So we had heard earlier in the night, as you mentioned, that there were several different scenes that had played out since our original scene. I know Joel Brown was heading to a scene as well, but we had the Headingham neighborhood, we had 5800 Knightdale Boulevard, which is another location in Buffalo Road and I-540 at the mobile home park. So it seems like there's several different areas of attention tonight that officers and troopers and investigators are looking into.
I was hearing from our control room that we had a feed coming in from Wake Med, so I don't know, Tatiana, maybe you can help us sort this out, where the feeds are coming in from right now. Okay, so this is New Bern Avenue, just to clarify that. And that is, we saw a number of state troopers just arriving there, lights and siren, as they arrived there on the scene, which would obviously suggest they are, there is some kind of intensified activity there related to either the search for that gunman or the potentially a standoff with that gunman. As we said, we had information that person was cornered in a garage. We're still waiting for more information on that.
We do know Joel Brown is headed to the Buffalo Road and 540 scene, and Josh is there. This is his camera we're seeing here. Jamise Price, again, is at a different location where this all initially unfolded. So our crews and reporters are out spread throughout the area because there are multiple scenes involved in this active shooting investigation. And of course, as soon as we get new information from any of our crews, we'll of course pass that information along to you. We're still waiting for an official word from police tonight about this investigation, the suspect, and exactly how this all unfolded earlier in the evening.
And as we've been telling you, the information we have from our law enforcement sources is that this started along the Noose Greenway Trail sometime in the 5 o'clock hour today, when a police officer, Raleigh police officer, on the way to work, confronted this teenage gunman along the trail, and at that point the officer was shot. That's the initial indication we have about how this began unfolding today. And this is later that hour, in the 5 o'clock hour, we had Chopper 11 overhead. First live pictures we brought you at about 5:50, just before the 6 o'clock news got started. And these were our initial observations from the chopper, where we saw crime scene tape up around different houses. Our chopper crew reported 3 very large crime scenes there, including that white vehicle that appears to have the windows shot out.
And this is a densely populated neighborhood. You could see from the aerial photos that we got with Chopper 11, a lot of families living here. So this is a very dangerous situation at some point in the afternoon, which is why we heard from Victoria McGraw, who lives in that neighborhood, a little bit earlier. She said she walked outside, as inquisitive as most people would be in their neighborhood, looking for answers, trying to find out what exactly was happening. And officers, you know, with guns drawn, were encouraging all the neighbors there to get back inside, saying it's not safe to be out here. They were looking for someone, and we know that someone shot an off-duty officer on the way to work earlier in the afternoon.
And again, this is the video from earlier before the sun went down from Chopper 11 overhead. That's the highway patrol helicopter brought in as part of this search for the shooter, who at that point was on the run. And as described by our chopper pilot, you can see that thick tree canopy there, that really was hindering the search. It was really tough to see down along the trail and really get eyes on what was happening as this search was underway, when people were told there was an active shooting in their neighborhood in Headingham, told to stay inside, lock the doors, and call 911 if they saw anything. We
do know ATF Charlotte's office is tweeting out that special agents are responding to this active shooter scene here in Raleigh near the Noose River Greenway. So we've heard that all afternoon, that multiple law enforcement agencies are involved in trying to track down this shooter from earlier in the evening. Of course, several different scenes spread out across our area. Our reporters and crews are on all of those scenes trying to gather information and find out what we can to pass the news along.
And we heard from Raleigh City Council member Corey Branch earlier. He said that we should expect some kind of an update from officials as they get information together. As the RPD is able to pull information together, they will be updating us. So we're standing by for that, hoping that will come sometime, and hoping we can provide all of you who are watching an update on what the situation is with that gunman, the search for that gunman, and the people who were shot there in East Raleigh today.
Yeah, very unnerving situation for families in this community. And still, it's an active investigation tonight, and I think people don't feel safe until they hear the words that the suspect was captured or is in custody. So we understand a lot of people wondering what next. I know that's a fair question for a lot of people in situations like this, when you are passing those cruisers speeding by and responding to scenes, as you see here in this photo.
And you see more police arriving now back into the Hedingham area, the Eagle Trace neighborhood, where we saw people being allowed back in. Josh Chapin is just telling us that, according to his source information, they have this person barricaded in a barn right now. If we can get Josh back on the air here with us and connect with Josh and understand to a greater degree what he's learning, that would be great. But that would help us understand why we've seen all of this police activity in East Raleigh. Again, what we saw here just moments ago, live on Eyewitness News, it was New Bern Avenue and Rogers Lane, where we saw several highway patrol vehicles streaming into that neighborhood. It could be a highway patrol special response team who would be equipped to respond to this kind of situation with their tactical gear and their tactical knowledge and a strategy for dealing with someone who is barricaded. Again, the information from Josh is from his sources that this gunman has been found and he's barricaded in a barn. So that would suggest that we don't know exactly where that is. That's part of the problem. And that's probably why the RPD was telling people in certain neighborhoods to remain inside, and why in other neighborhoods they are being allowed back in. Yeah,
they did tweet out, as you read earlier, it's still an active investigation. Sections of the Hedingham neighborhood remain closed, and residents should follow the directions of law enforcement officials on those scenes. So again, as you mentioned, Steve, we're seeing law enforcement re-enter that neighborhood. That was the original scene there, the Eagle Trace neighborhood. And so we don't know exactly, as you mentioned, where this barn could be that Josh is getting information about. So that's why the urgency continues to be tonight to remain inside and follow the instructions of law enforcement officials until this situation has resolved itself.
Yeah, I think that's the important thing to understand is the all clear has not been given by the Raleigh Police Department. We're trying to piece this together as we're seeing it. And again, that is the live feed coming in from the Hedingham community, from the Eagle Trace community. So it's possible that that this, just to orient you a little bit, that is one section of the Hedingham area, Eagle Trace. That's a key entrance into Hedingham. And where we saw the other police activity along New Bern and Rogers, that's just a little distance, walkable distance really, south of there in the Hedingham area. So if that helps you triangulate what we're talking about communities like Edgewater at Rogers Farm and Hedingham. That area between those two neighborhoods is where we're seeing a lot of this police activity right now.
I know Bob G., one of our photographers, is trying to clarify. He said, so we don't confuse people, Steve, to make sure we say Old Millburny. It's very different from Millburny, so people will understand where this is all taking place. That was one of the locations where Josh Chapin was reporting in that area, New Bern and Rogers, near Old Millburny Road. So we want to make sure, we're not frightening people in their neighborhoods, but we're getting that information right.
Yeah, this is, as Josh described, it's where he was standing, where that live feed is coming in, is right in front of the sheets, essentially, on New Bern Avenue, if that helps place the area for you, to give you a better idea exactly what we're talking about. So again, the latest information we have coming in right now is that this gunman, that law enforcement believes they may have this gunman barricaded in a barn in that part of East Raleigh. So again, it's obviously work being kept away we can't get eyes on this. We're depending on our sources to provide that information as we continue piecing this together.
Jamise Price sharing some video with us. It's not on air yet, but she went back into that Eagle Trace neighborhood, and you can see a lot of brake lights. So it seems that a lot of people, again, are going to be in that space of being stuck outside their homes at this hour while this investigation continues, and law enforcement trying to find exactly where they're trying to get in and make their arrest or do what they need to do in regards to this investigation. So it's going to be a busy night until this is resolved, and a lot of people are still out and about on the roads with questions and wondering what's happening. So this is a situation that's been unfolding since about 5:15 this afternoon, and it's continued well into the night. Law enforcement agencies from all over. We just saw the latest was the ATF office in Charlotte saying they are now assisting the FBI. Wake County is also assisting Raleigh Police, who's the lead agency on this investigation.
And just to further help orient you about the area that the Raleigh Police Department is talking about, it's really it's 540 and Old Mill Burney Road. That is one of the neighborhoods where the Raleigh Police Department is urging people to stay inside. That's where McConnell Oliver Drive is. It's just on the west side of I-540 near Old Mill Burney Road. And that is the area there. It's just it's east of the kind of north and east of the Hedingham area, but obviously still very much in that area, a walkable, runnable area, if you will, if that's where this search for the shooter is underway right now.
All right, Josh Chapin joining us again with an update on what he's hearing. Hi, Josh.
Hi. Yeah, Lauren, sorry. We're as we speak, coming on the air for you here. This has been, I'm going to get out of the way and Bob's going to show you exactly what's going on. We're seeing sort of a police staging area here, all from State Highway Patrol to Raleigh Police, just sort of going in and out of this neighborhood. I cannot confirm that there's some sort of search going on back here, but we've seen officers cruising in and out of here just minute by minute, almost second by second. I was able to confirm with a law enforcement source that the suspect has been barricaded